Hey, what's up? Thank you for attending this class. My name is Haley Morris, and overall, I am a health and wellness coach that also focuses on mindset and lifestyle. So first off, I want to go through a little bit of my background just so you guys get an overall feel on what my lifestyle has been about up until this point. Like, how did I get into carnivore, right? Or the keto carnivore world. So first off, I started off in a very standard American diet home. We ate a lot of grain, sugar-based meals, right? And during this time, anytime that I overindulged on a grain-based meal or a sugary meal, I had migraines. So I had a lot of migraines growing up in my life. And so eventually my parents kind of caught on to the diet industry and that we kind of weren't eating in a way that was healthy, and they kind of navigated that a little bit, but then we started eating a lot of low-fat foods and just still the typical American standard diet, right? So then I got into my teenage and early adult years, where I was a very rebellious teenager. I was kind of just living my life. I was eating a lot of fast food, drinking quite a bit of alcohol. I was smoking cigarettes, lots of soda, just not, I'm not being healthy overall, and I am really destroying my body and my mind. And so I did have a very poor mindset. I was very angry a lot, and overall just not well. I had off and on depression, and the typical not good lifestyle, and it reflected heavily with the things that I was doing. So then I kind of hit a very dark point in my life where I was just at my lowest. I was not hanging out with the right crowd. I was doing some other various drugs that I shouldn't have been doing, still drinking a lot, and kind of had a wake-up call one day. And kind of thought to myself, like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing to myself? Why am I living this way? This is not benefiting me, and I deserve better than this. So at that point, I didn't make a switch right away, but within the next week or two, I decided that, I was going to do something about this. So I went on my first jog that I'd been on in a long time, and immediately regretted that within the first or second day, because I had some extreme pain, which then I ended up going to a doctor for, and I had kidney stones. So I had built up kidney stones in my body at the age of 21. And because of that, I decided to, I actually went to a doctor, and luckily I had a doctor that said, hey, are you drinking a lot of soda? Like, what's your lifestyle look like? He actually, started getting my wheels turned a little bit. And I was like, okay, well, probably shouldn't drink soda. So when I left the doctor's, had to do all the kidney stone evaluation thing and monitor that. But also, I decided to make a lifestyle change at that point. I decided that I wasn't going to eat fast food like I was. I was going to start making my own meals at home, even though it's still very standard American diet. And I wasn't going to drink any more soda, and I was going to get my health back in order, because I could not believe that I had kidney stones at 21. It just blew my mind. And so after a while of doing that, I limited my alcohol intake. I eventually stopped smoking. I got into yoga, and then I really started paying attention to the self-help world, like reading a lot about health, reading a lot about spirituality, reading a lot about self-care, and really getting a ton of knowledge around this stuff. And it really inspired me to do even better, to get even better with my health, and to actually make an impact in the world. And so that's when really I started to turn around a lot. I started to jog occasionally. I was praying to the Lord to just please give me a health food job. I couldn't serve in the fast food industry anymore. I was working at Bob Evans at the time, and I'm like, I cannot serve this poison to people. Like, I do not want to serve this. And so I was just asking and praying to get me a job in the health food industry. And so eventually, I started going to the store a lot called Sunspot Natural Market, and started bothering them a lot to get a job there. And eventually they hired me as a food prep chef. And so while I was there, I had a great time. I love that place. I was making healthy food for people. I was learning about veganism and vegetarian which I had already become for a couple of years there, where when I was doing yoga, I started experimenting in CrossFit because I had taken a job at the gym part-time next door. And really, I was on track. I was on a turn of a leaf, as they say, right? And so at that point, I decided, I want to help other people feel good. I want other people to experience this, that you can live a happy and well life, and that you don't have to be, in this negative victimhood mindset all the time. I wanted to make change in the world. And so at that point, I started looking up certifications, and I became a life coach and took on my very first client that was a diabetic. And Diane was her name. She was a very older lady, and she had actually been in a diabetic coma at some point. And after some time, and I had her on a vegetarian diet with some meat, but she actually got her blood sugar levels regulated. And she had been attending all of these diabetic groups and never had seen really any progress. And then she started working with me, and then started going to these groups and spreading the message, like spreading the truth of like what you actually should do. And so that was very fun first experience for me. And that just kept me motivated to do more, right? One of the things that I always heard people talk about is that eating healthy is too expensive. And it really always got on my nerves, right? And it still gets on my nerves today. But so at that point, I decided, you know what? Like, I want to do more than just work here at Sunspot. I'm going to start a community garden. So I started a 100% free community garden because I wanted people to be able to, my thinking was get produce free, right? They can come do the work and get free produce. Okay, so this is super easy, guys. Like go grow your stuff and it can subside your costs. So like that's kind of my mindset about it. And so I started this community garden and did that for a couple of years. And then I think after about a year, I started a juice bar in Kokomo. And so I was all the way into this raw vegan, vegetarian world where I'm serving juices. I'm talking about veganism, vegetarianism. And it was a game changer for me. Like it was a health switch for me because I'm going from this very processed food oriented diet, the standard American diet. And now I'm eating whole foods, right? I don't even have that processed junk really in my diet. Like I'm going raw. I'm going to the very extreme of this and I'm doing it right. And so that, cleansed my body. I actually had tons of acne all over my face, and I could probably share the picture with you if you wanted to. I was running a lot. And I was clean, eating clean foods, right? And then all of the toxins were just emerging in my face. I'd never broken out so much in my life because that's how my body was healing. It was pushing everything out, right? And so after a while of being vegan and vegetarian, I actually started to notice a health issue surface. So I was at the juice bar and I would be talking to people. Like I did some consulting there and some coaching there as well. And I would just start stuttering, or I would lose my train of thought. And I couldn't figure out what I was going to say. Like it wasn't like I lost my train of thought and then I could recover it. Like I just couldn't. And so after a while of that, I started looking into veganism and vegetarian more. And first of all, I started looking to fix it so I could get my mental game back, right? But I just couldn't. I was already doing everything that they said. I was already sprouting things. I was already implementing the supplements. I was doing it right. And so I started researching more. And then I realized okay, there's other vegans and vegetarians that stopped being vegan and vegetarians because they started experiencing health issues. And they were losing hair, losing teeth, could not keep any weight on, the mental decline. I mean, there was a lot of things there that was kind of a wake-up call to me. And so eventually I ended up meeting what is now my husband, and he was helping run a homestead and where they were doing pasture-raised chicken and grass-fed lamb. And so I kind of entered that space into just seeing a different way of doing this. And it's not that I grew up in a household that was anti-meat. It was just something that I had learned on my own, and I just thought it was the better way. So, and plus, like CAFO farms, like confined animal feeding operations, like they're not clean and they're not very humane. And I kind of wanted to stay away from that too. So there was a little bit of a moral aspect there. But so when I saw this like homesteading approach and the way that they were doing it and the way that they got the animals processed and stuff like that, I was like, okay, I started kind of warming up to it. And plus I was kind of doing a little bit more research on the meat side of things, meat health, right? And through that, I decided one day, you know what, I'm going to try this lamb that's being raised here. And so this was the first piece of meat that I had in years, probably like four-ish years. And so I ate this piece of lamb, and immediately I felt mentally better, physically better. It was like a surge of energy, and I really can't explain it. But if you look up things online, there's very similar experiences in regard to lamb in particular, which is really interesting. So yeah, that's kind of how I got back into eating meat, and then kind of continued my journey there. I started homesteading for a while. I had my first child, and then after I had my first child, I got my primal health coach certification, which is very like hunter-gatherer certification, very more natural, right? I got my certification in USAW, so Olympic weightlifting, and I got really serious about CrossFit. So that's kind of where I took another turn with this lifestyle. So that was around 2016. I was eating very, very paleo. So if you think about paleo, it is hunter-gatherer, right? And so if you can think about nature and what nature naturally produces, so you got, animals, nuts, seeds, some vegetables, a lot more fruits. So if you should just think about that, that's kind of that paleo world. And then in 2018, I went more keto carnivore. This was actually when I was pregnant with my second child. I kept weightlifting. I, ate very animal based. At some points I was purely carnivore, and at some points I was more keto carnivore. And then right before COVID hit, I ended up creating a virtual fitness challenge, and that was really fun. And then COVID hit, and I decided, you know what, I still need to do this lifestyle thing. I still need to help people get healthy, conquer their mind, restore their health and fitness. This is the time to do it, right? And I need to help people free themselves from the system that is destroying their health, that is putting them into a fearful victim mentality, and get them out of it, to free their soul out of it, and have more control over their life, right? And so that's kind of how I got to where I am. I started doing fasting really since I had been vegan, and so I have lots of experience there. But when I entered into the carnivore diet, the keto carnivore diet, it's way easier to do. It was easy then too, just because it's a very low calorie diet, but this is just different. It's a very satiating way of going about it, and I'll talk about that later. So how do you begin? And so this is about you and how you can get started, right? And so I kind of told you my journey just so you understand that this wasn't an overnight process, okay? So you need to be realistic about your goals and getting to a place where you're actually healthy, right? So how do you start? If you're in the standard American diet, if you're just eating what everybody else is eating, fast food, restaurants a lot, you're cooking whatever at home, you're not even really thinking about it, I always start with my clients that are doing that to switch to quality, right? We need quality foods. So I'm not telling you to get rid of your Lay's chips. I'm telling you to take the Lay's chips and put that aside and get a better version, an organic version. Because what we want to start to do is get rid of as many chemicals as we can to start to simplify your ingredients, okay? Because at this point, you're addicted to that. It's going to take weaning off. These foods were made to be addictive. They add MSGs to trigger a chemical in your mind to make you want make you want it. Okay. So these foods are addictive. So I have to, as a client coming from there, I have to wean you off of these drug-induced foods, right? And so I always recommend that if you are heavily in standard American diet, that you start there. Okay. The next move from that point is clean out your kitchen. Like, clean out all of your kitchen from the excess processed foods. We don't want it in our pharmacy, in our FARM pharmacy that helps us, stay healthy. And so you want to start thinking of your kitchen as something that supports your health. Is this going to nourish me? Is this going to keep me healthy? Like, you want to look at it as your medicine, your food as your medicine, okay? And the third one is up your animal protein and your animal fats, because that is going to be the food that keeps you nourished. It has a ton of vitamins and minerals in it that you wouldn't even think that are in it, that are going to help you and your body become healthy, okay? And it's going to keep you satiated. It's going to keep you full. And so you won't eat as much as the other stuff. So like I said, like, I'm mostly carnivore. Like, there's a lot of days that I eat carnivore. You can eat all meat, and we'll get into that. And so don't worry about having to have all these sides and all these little snacks or whatever. Just eat a lot of animal meats and healthy fats, and you won't have a problem. You will start to get healthier, right? And then once you've gotten really good at that, you've switched over to quality, maybe you've upped your animal meats and fats, then you can kind of switch into paleo. So paleo is a hunter-gathered type of diet, right? Like, kind of when I talked about how I got my primal health coaching certification, that's what I was into. I'm into the natural world, right? So if you can think about paleo as being a very hunted and gathered diet, then you can kind of think about what your plate should look like overall. So they want to limit foods that are common during farming practices. So that would be, grains, soybeans, chickpeas, beans, lentils, legumes, things like that, right? So you would be focusing on animal products, vegetables like squash, vegetables that are semi-cultivated, but not like overly doing it like into its seed form. And then fruits, and then nuts and seeds, right? And so the focus there, I guess, overall is removing grains, right? We don't want grains, and some people can't tolerate dairy. So you might want to remove that as well, especially if you think that dairy might be a problem, and remove it for about a month and then implement it back in and see if that is causing a problem that you may be having. Another reason that we want to remove grains and legumes is because it contains lectins. So lectins cause digestive issues like leaky gut, and then also excessive inflammation in the body, which inflammation is the root of all disease. So we need to be careful there. And then also it contains anti-nutrients, which is a plant compound that reduces the body's ability to absorb essential nutrients. So we need to be careful with really all plant foods when it comes to that, but legumes and grains in particular have this very harmful effect on the body, which is why you have some charts like food maps or autoimmune protocols to eliminate a lot of these foods that cause the ability to absorb those essential nutrients and the inflammation and gut negativity effects of certain foods. So some of the foods to be mindful of that might be causing a negative gut effect, if you have leaky gut or you have irritable bowel syndrome or you have a lot of inflammation where your joints and stuff hurt a lot, would be soybeans, which I would avoid all soy for multiple reasons, but soybeans, whole grains, chickpeas, beans, lentils, nuts, seeds, spinach, kale, broccoli, peppers, eggplants, tomatoes, chocolate, and tea. So it's not that you can like never have these things ever, but you need to be very mindful that these things can have harmful effects. So you might not want to eat them at all, and you might want to eat them at very little amounts. And so I would just keep that in mind, that these do have negative effects in your body, okay? So once you've left the standard American diet and you're getting into this paleo world where now maybe you're adding more plant items and you're still focused on that meat and healthy fats, and you have some fruits. So you're in a very primal oriented diet, which is going to make you healthier overall. I mean, that transition out of the standard American diet where it is pure junk food and grains and sugar and glycogen spikers, your blood sugar levels are whacked out on that diet, and mood swings and depression. I mean, it's just a very unhealthy way of eating and living. And so when you can enter into the paleo world, then you're starting to have a really strong foundation on health, okay? So a lot of people are gonna stop here. A lot of people, that's good enough for them. And that's fine. If it's working for you, if you're healthy and you're feeling well, your mindset, it is good, your moods are good, you don't have any leaky gut things going on, you feel great. If you feel good, cool. But if you don't, then you might want to go a step further, and that would be into the keto realm, right? So the keto-based diet is a very fat-based diet. So here they like to focus on between 70 and 80% of your diet being fat-oriented. So obviously I promote animal and animal-based fats because I believe that nutrition transfers well in your body compared to other fats, okay? But also you can add things like avocado, olives, all the dairy products, butter, yogurt, sour cream, whipping cream. If you have problems with butter, you can do ghee or tallow. You can add nuts and seeds and nut butter and olive oil, coconut oil, all those things, okay? So extra fat, okay? And then so 20 to 25% fat, just think about a plate, 70 to 80% fat, 20 to 25% protein, and then the carbs would be in the 5 to 10% range. So you're keeping those carbs really small. You're kind of getting rid of the carb world, which actually is going to start stabilizing your blood sugar levels a lot better, and you're going to start healing that gut. Especially if you stay away from the nuts and seeds. So I would be careful there because they can have the anti-nutrient effect as well. But if you can get more on the animal proteins and fats in that area, and then focus less on the other stuff, then you're going to see health benefits regardless there. Okay. So in that keto world, you're focusing on a fat-oriented diet. Here, a lot of people can start fasting, and we'll talk about fasting in a minute, but you have a very solid base of health and nutrition, okay? Now, where I'm at is more of the keto carnivore world, and because I've gotten so good at this diet, I'm able to actually implement foods from other spaces and be able to immediately jump back into my carnivore keto because I've developed that discipline. I've developed a way to navigate the diets. I know what works for me. I know what makes me feel bad. I know myself now, and I'll kind of talk about that here at the end. So if you wanted to take this even further, and a lot of people are not, because this is very extreme, really oriented of the spectrum, but there is a lot of testimonials here. So if you go into the carnivore world at all and you look up testimonials, you are going to see a ton of diseases and health problems totally reversed, disappeared. And it's truly amazing. So animal foods just transfer in the body well. We are what we eat. We need protein, we need healthy fats, and we need that nutrition that comes from that. And so when you eat carnivore, animal products only, that's what it is, animal products only. So anything that technically has a mother can be eaten, right? And so here is where a lot of chronic diseases disappear. And the reason why is you're getting rid of all anti-nutrient, all inflammatory foods, anything that is going to stimulate inflammation in your body is going to be gone. Not only that, but you are putting your body in a state where it is kind of, it's kind of a natural fasting state. You're already in a mechanism of fasting. And obviously when you fast, there's some other things genetically that activate here. But your body is running, it's depleted its glycogen stores, okay, for the most part. It's starting to eat away any stored fat. It's starting to repair any damages in your body. And it's providing energy, it's providing energies through ketones which are naturally produced in your body. And if, for instance, that you would need glycogen, because a lot of people are worried about like carnivore and gaining muscle if they are a weightlifter or something like that, your protein, the excess protein that you are eating, can convert into glycogen and be stored. So there's no really concern about having energy on carnivore, about having the nutrition on carnivore. Like, you're not missing anything. So if you feel like carnivore would make you miss something and that's the only reason you're abstaining from even trying this diet, it's not true. If anything, it's going to completely reverse anything that's going on in your body. And the more disciplined you get with this, the more that you can go into the keto world or into the paleo world, or even into high quality standard American diet here and there, and get right back on it. Now, if you find yourself where you're not disciplined, if you haven't been on these diets long enough where your body is able to switch energies, and when I mean that, like, is it a fat burning body or is it a sugar burning body? And what you want to be able to do is get all the way into fat burning. So if long enough, so your body understands that, okay, when I get a glucose boost, then I'm going to burn that sugar first, right? And then I'm going to pop right back into fat burning. So you need to be disciplined enough. Your body needs to be adapted enough to do these things, right? So that's kind of how I've taken all these diets and I've been able to discipline them enough where I'm able to feed into others if I want to, and get right back on to the one that I want to get back on without binge eating, right? Or without totally destroying it. And this becomes a lot easier when you start to biohack your body. So I'll talk about that a little bit, because what biohacking is basically making your diet personal to you. What works for you, what feels good, what makes you have the most energy, what makes you have the most clarity, right? You are making it personalized, which is what I help my clients do ultimately, is because you go through an elimination process, and carnivore diet really is the best place to eliminate, to enter into the elimination diet, where you can actually get into a very simplistic diet where it's animal products, and then maybe you add in some electrolytes to help with that. And then after about a month, right, then you add dairy back in. And then you kind of wait a few days, up to a week, and see how that makes you feel. Does it start to make you mucousy? Does it make you tired? Does it make you feel weird? Does it mess with your mental health? Then if it does or doesn't, you can either keep it there or take it back away and implement another food. And you can actually start to biohack your body to make it where you have a diet that matches you and what makes you feel good. And so that's kind of the fun thing about me experimenting with all of these diets, is because I've kind of learned what works for me and what feels good and what doesn't feel good, and then maintaining that discipline, and also being able to teach this to people. Because if I hadn't been vegan, raw vegan, vegetarian, keto, and now carnivore, then I would never have been able to experience all that stuff and navigate it for people and get people to understand that maybe why that they're having this experience with it is because they need to get rid of this and all that stuff. So it's fun being able to have food discipline and have a diet that works for you overall. It makes it fun. It makes your life more driven and more motivating and more challenging in some aspects, because you're able to you have the willpower. Once you become disciplined in diet, you become disciplined in other things, and then you're able to have willpower to do other things, right? Other challenges, because you've mastered this, right? And so now you can master something else, and then you compound those things and kind of move forward. So some people that are doing the carnivore diet do what's called a nose to tail method, which you don't have to do in carnivore. I know a lot of people just eat straight up beef or just a steak. But if you wanted to do the nose to tail method, you're just going to get a lot more of the nutrients and vitamins that are available for you. So some of the top ones that I would recommend are liver, which contains folate, iron, vitamin B, vitamin A, and copper. Beef heart, which contains folate, iron, zinc, selenium, and all the B vitamins in like a B vitamin complex. and bone marrow, which would be extra protein. You would get collagen that a lot of people pay for, omega-3s, and then also B vitamin 12. So with carnivore overall, I would say that it's probably the best diet to be on if you're wanting to fast a lot, just because you do have all of your nutrients there. You're running on very high fat. It's very easy to not want to eat because you're satiated. If you are eating like a carb diet, even if it's a little bit of carbs, you're going to have those cravings. And a lot of people mention this to me, like, well, I have cravings, like I can't get rid of the cravings. And it's honestly, it's just because you're not eating right. I mean, that's as honest as I can get. Like, you're just not eating in a way that is supporting your nourishment, that's supporting your nutrition. And so you're leaving space for you to have cravings, right? Because if I eat a meal that's all carnivore, and I've been doing this for, a week, I don't have cravings. If I have cravings, it's for steak because I need more fat. So you guys got to keep that in mind. It's not that you don't have to be a slave to your cravings. You can actually control that, right? You control it by being disciplined, more disciplined in a diet that matches you. And that's not like an excuse to like, oh, well, I just really like the sugar diet, because honestly, that that's not healthy for you. Like, and you're going to have cravings all the time, and you're going to have mood swings, and you're going to have energy crashes, right? Because that's not a diet that's supporting your body. It's not supporting your mind. You're going to have anxiety and depression, and you're not going to be able to control your emotions, right? If you're living in this up and down blood sugar levels and these crashes and these energy spikes, like, you got to think about that, right? So we want stability. We want stability in our diet. And the best way to do that is to be carnivore or keto carnivore. If you can enter in those spaces, then you're going to get rid of your cravings overall. Like, it will diminish. And then if you add fasting on top of that, then you just create another discipline for yourself. And that makes it so much easier to like skip eating. Like, say you're at an airport and there's nothing to eat, like, it's no big deal. I'm just gonna skip and I'll eat at dinner time. Like, it makes it so much easy to let go of the thought of eating because you don't need it. So your body is running off of its fat stores, off of its internal energy source. It doesn't need these outside sugars to keep it burning. And so your body adapts and transfers into its natural state. And so that takes me into fasting, which is our last piece here. And I will be sending you guys the guide. So this will kind of cover that a little bit, but then you'll have some more things there. So first of all, I want to talk about who shouldn't be fasting. And so the people that should not be fasting is anybody that's pregnant or nursing, or someone that has body dysmorphia or has a past history of eating disorder that they feel like it might trigger that again. Okay, because we don't want to do that. Fasting is supposed to be a tool. It's supposed to make your health even better, or just make it where you're more disciplined. We're not trying to create any problems through fasting. That's not what it's for. Another person that shouldn't be fasting is someone that's going to be having a poor foundation of diet. So you're going to live in the standard American diet. You're still going to eat fast food. You're still going to binge eat ice cream, whatever it is. There's no point in fasting, because for one, it's going to be a miserable experience, because you're going to feel really bad when you're fasting, but then you're also going to be spiking your glucose levels when you do break that fast. And that actually can be very dangerous. It's called Refeeding Syndrome. And in an extreme case, that can be led to death. So we need to have a very strong foundation of a diet where we are able to run off of our fat stores and able to run off ketones. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Ketones. So paleo is fine if you're more animal and fat based, if you're not like extreme on the carb aspect of paleo, but really the good safe realms are keto and carnivore. So the benefits of fasting, real quick, caution with pre-diabetes and diabetes, especially if you're on medications. If you are one of these, pre-diabetic or diabetic, then I highly encourage you to work with a fasting coach and work closely with your doctor, especially if you are on medications, because your blood sugar levels are going to fluctuate a lot when you start to experiment with fasting. You should also keep track of your blood sugar levels just to make sure that you are safe, and keep some instant sugar around, so like juice or a dextrose tablet or something, just in case you start experiencing hyperglycemia, and we don't want to do that. So like I said, if you are pre-diabetic or diabetic, then work with a fasting coach like me or somebody else, and make sure that you talk to your doctor about experimenting with fasting, and get it clear, and make sure he monitors you pretty well and adjusts your medications accordingly. So the benefits of fasting would be promotes blood sugar control, which is also a huge benefit with a carnivore diet. And this reduces insulin resistance, which is a precursor to diabetes and other neurological diseases. Fights inflammation, enhances heart health, boosts brain function, and prevents neurological disorders. It also has a self-cleaning effect of the body, and it slows down aging and starts to repair the body. And it does that by activating the human growth hormone, which also will help you retain muscle if you do resistance training. It helps with mood control, which I've personally experienced, and a side effect of all that, an extra bonus side effect would be weight loss, right? So, like I said, fasting is way easier when your diet foundation is well. Another thing that I would recommend with fasting is that you have an internal goal and not an external goal, because internal goals take you a lot further in life than an external goal does. We want fasting to be fun and challenging and an added tool. We don't want it to be something that you're punishing yourself with, or that you're miserable, or you're trying to get these external rewards that ultimately don't matter, because then eventually you won't fast anymore anyways. And same with other life goals and weightlifting and anything. It should all be internal motivation and not all these external motivators, so that way you can keep going. You have drive, right? Now, like I said, we want this to be fun. We don't want this to be miserable. So if you are fasting and you start to feel really ill, and you've tried to drink electrolytes, and you've tried moving to kind of kick the ill feelings, then just break your fast early. There's no point in just feeling ill and miserable during fasting. That's not the point of it. And you may just need your body to start adjusting to it better. So just break the fast, and then try again another day in a couple days, or make it shorter, instead of trying to do an intermittent fast where you're doing like a 16 off food and 8 on food. Like, just make it where, maybe you're doing 10 hours of eating, and then you're fasting, and then you're doing 8 hours and then fasting, and just kind of incrementally extend your fasting until it gets easy, and then you can start to do longer fasts. And that's kind of how I recommend easing into fasting anyways. Like, if you just remove some snacks throughout the day, and then remove a breakfast, right? And then remove a lunch, you can start to incline into this. You don't have to, sprint up the hill. We can do this at a very slow level. And it helps your body just adapt easier to it. So last thing for the fasting is that I kind of mentioned it, but utilizing electrolytes and sea salts during your fast can help your mineral levels stay stable, and that will help you transition into adapting to the fast easier. So if you find that you feel like you're tired, or feel like you're gonna pass out or anything like that, you may just need some electrolytes. And I just recommend having electrolytes during the first few times of fasting anyways, and then obviously just keeping them in your kitchen just in case you need that. But once your body adapts to fasting and running off of your natural energy systems, then you won't have to implement that stuff much anymore, unless you've been sweating a lot and you just need electrolytes. And you can get that through natural sea salts. Like, I wouldn't recommend sea salts or man-made salts at all. but if you can do Himalayan salt or sea salt, or something like that, then that would be effective. I also use Onnit for electrolyte, but there's another one that other carnivores use called LMNT, I believe, and I wrote that in the guide, so you guys can re-look over that. Breaking your fast, just ease into it. You can use bone broth, or you can do a really small animal fat-based meal. And you'll notice that the more you start to fast, the less you want to eat when you begin eating, because your body just doesn't need that much. And so it will adapt to kind of what you're doing, and you'll have to ease back into your eating to kind of get to the amount that you were eating before. And that's okay. Like, just slow down and listen to your body. And so overall, I hope that this class was useful for you. I will be sending you the guides, and I just want to encourage you guys to, make this a marathon and really just try to get 1% better every day. Like I said, this took me years to get to this level and perfect everything and get the food discipline. Because I've been through it, I now am able to have the food discipline, right? Because I use fasting as a tool so I can control, when I hear my mind saying, ooh, I'm hungry, but I realize that my body's not actually hungry. I'm just bored, or I need to go work out, or whatever. You start to understand, your body talks to you. And so the only way to do that, the only way to get food discipline, is to begin making the foundation of your diet better. Okay, so go through these transitions, start focusing on quality, then start doing more animal-based and more hunter-gatherer, then start doing more fat-based, right, and less of the carbs. And then if you want to take it a step further, get into carnivore and get into fasting. It is simple. It is overall simple. You just overall have to make the choice, and you have to be consistent with it. Don't stock your kitchen with junk food. That helps so much. I do not keep sugar in my house. I have no willpower over sugar, even if it's good kinds. I just don't keep it in my house, okay? I would never put brownies in my cabinet, and I would never keep ice cream, because I know that I'm going to want those things, and so I don't keep it. And if I ever want it for a treat, then I go out and I get it and I have it, and then I'm done with it for a long time. And that's another way that if you feel like you don't have willpower and discipline around something, do not keep it with you. Easiest way, do not keep it with you. You cannot leave a drug addict with their drugs. It's just not going to work. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys. I will be sending you the recording and the guide, and I will chat with you guys later. And if you feel like you have any more questions, or you want to work with me more closely, then I am more than willing to do that with you. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend.